So, do you wake up in a bad mood when you wake up perhaps late or when things are happening all around you and you're wondering, oh, my day, I'm running late. Oh, I don't have time. Are you fretting over your morning? How do you begin your mornings? How do you begin your days? Are you all caught up in craziness or what is that thing that sometimes people refer to as a routine? And do you have any tools to help you throughout the day? One of which, of course, is called a journal. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about this thing called your morning routine, as well about this thing that some people call your daily journaling. Okay. I'm wondering if you can put in the chat if you have a morning routine, as well as I would love to hear what your morning routine is. And of course, if you currently are journaling, I'd love to know more about your journaling experience. Hello and welcome. This is Evie Diaz. I am Evie Diaz, strategic growth speaker at Biz University and a proud authorpreneur. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about my upcoming journal, The Feel, Act, and Be Rich, how to manifest your fabulous future self now. And just a disclaimer, that name may change. So that's what the name title is. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a little bit. And today I do have a fabulous guest. So I'll go ahead and bring her up right now and allow her to please introduce herself. Hello, my friend.
Hello, Evie. How are you, honey?
I'm
So good
doing
to be
great.
here again and join you. So
Great.
my name,
I'm thankful that you're here.
I'm grateful to be here. So my name is Karam Zafarvera, and I am mindful with Karam, a mindset coach, and I'm looking forward to having our conversation here today because it's all around the things that I love and passionate about.
I love it. And can you tell us just a little bit more about you?
Absolutely. My background's in the mediation business, and I did that for a number of years, over 15 years. And then I transitioned into coaching. It was a calling that really, we all go through different scenarios in our life, different seasons. And this came into my life, and I'm so happy and grateful for it. I'm a PGI consultant, certified in Thinking and Grow Rich, and now I am also a Napoleon Hill Institute founding ambassador slash coach. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you so much for sharing that. And as always, I prepared a little something to share with everyone today. And let's see how that shows up for us. There we go. Very little effort. I love it when it's very little effort. So today we're going to talk about how to enjoy a fab retreat and manifest a fab rich future self. And you're going to be understanding all those terms or acronyms that I just mentioned in just a little bit. Let me just go ahead and make some changes here to our background. That way, people can actually see everything good. And please, if you're joining us, make sure, hi, Andrea. Love, love, love that you are here with us. And I know, Andrea, that you're going to be joining our mini virtual future self retreat on Friday, and I'm looking forward to that. So, a big shout out to Andrea. Let me see if I can show you there. There you are. Awesome. Thank you, Andrea. I'm loving that you're here with us. And I'm loving that you're always sharing good stuff. I'm sending you good love, hug, and great vibes. Now, I do have someone else joining us. That is Asia. And as soon as I see her video, I'll bring her up and then I'll ask her to please introduce herself. So let's talk about this whole concept and idea of enjoying a fab retreat. And so if you're watching this on the replay for the very first time, please note in your calendar with an alarm that every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time or Florida time or New York time, we have our Wealth Creation Wednesday show at 2 p.m. for you to really begin shifting your mindset about how to manifest wealth in your life. And today, as I said, this is our topic, and we're going to dive into it in just a second by first beginning a conversation with Karen because she is my guest, almost co host here with me today. And Karen, would you mind sharing a little bit about what is your morning routine?
Absolutely. I love to share. So immediately as soon as I get up, automatically programmed to instantly start saying, I'm grateful for things before I even like literally I opened my eyes, and it was interesting to even see that shift happen because one day I woke up and I was like, oh man, it's happening so naturally. Like it's not something I had to be intentional to do. It all of a sudden it started happening because I was intentional. So immediately I asked the universe to show me how wonderful the day could be. How good can it get? And then I start to go into, and I we mentioned this in last call, the think up, and I play the auto suggestion of my affirmations and my script and my goal. And then after that, I go into meditation as I am getting something to drink. Before I get something to drink, then I go into meditation, and then I do my gratitude journaling. Um, I write my gratitude and my affirmations at that point, and then from there I go into study mode for an hour. So that's my morning routine. And sometimes I mix it up, modify it a little bit depending on where how am I in the flow of things, but that's basically my morning routine.
So let me ask you, and by the way, I want to say hello to Asia. She's asking that she's going to stay in the chat, but she'll be chiming in.
Awesome.
Um, Question. So, is there a particular time that you start your morning routine?
Yes. So I've changed my time frame, and usually now in this season that I'm in, I'm waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I used to wake up at 4:30, and that depends on when I was going to be at the gym. So that kind of shifts around. I know that for me, I need to bring a little bit of change into my routine so that it's not just, and again, it's a routine, but it's more of my actions that prepare me for my day. But I usually wake up at 5 o'clock, and I go from there to about 6:30. Because at 6:30 I have a morning study group. So then I jump into my morning study group.
5 o'clock to about 6:30.
Mm, yes.
Okay, awesome. And did I hear you mention anything about journaling?
Yes. The
Tell
journaling
me,
happens.
tell me about that.
So the journaling happens after my meditation, and I start with whatever thoughts first come to me. And then I continue with gratitude. Gratitude for me puts me in that high frequency, in that high vibration. It really and it almost begins the creative side, because immediately you being grateful for things, when you higher your frequency, then you open up the space for that inspired thoughts to come through. So for me, gratitude at that very moment. And then after I've done a number of gratitude entries, then I switch it around to the affirmations of what I'm calling in gratitude already, as if I'm already have this in my life.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm happy too that Andrea is here. And I look forward to seeing you on Friday for our live Zoom private meeting that we're having with some of these fab rich women. And you did ask something, Andrea, and you heard gratitude is the frequency of love. And so this is something I shared a few Wednesdays ago. regarding the work of someone that I really love their work, and that's Dr. Hawkins. He's an MD, PhD. I believe he transitioned already, and he calibrated different emotions in sort of like the lab along with other people looking at heart, and I forget all the details of how he did the study, but he looked at different emotions and he calibrated them to see when you're feeling gratitude, how are you vibrating? And yes, the attitude of gratitude calibrates very highly. So when you're feeling gratitude, you're vibrating almost, if not at that same level of that feeling of love,
Mhm.
because love is one of the highest emotions according to Dr. Hawkins. So absolutely. So I'm glad that you said that. And so I want to continue this idea that we've been talking about the morning routine. Now, I'm wondering, Karen, do you have a name? Do you call it something different? And do you use the word routine?
So um, I do at times. It really depends on the. It really depends on who I'm speaking with and what am I doing. But for me, it is my morning ritual. So it is, and it is a ritual because it is what sets my day.
I
And
love that.
and when we think of it, if we come from that perspective of what type of day we want to embrace and invite, then it is a ritual and it becomes a priority.
I love that. And Asia loves the word ritual. And the reason why I asked that is because I want to know, and in the chat, as well as after in the replay, Asia, as well as Andrea, we have two A's, Andrea's, as well as you, Karen, here. If you can define what the word routine means to you.
To me, it means something that I do every day that I desire to do. Because here's the other thing, right? If we do anything with the idea that we have to, then you're defeating the purpose.
I love that. And remember that because I'm going to come back to you with that have to.
Yeah,
Because I want to know if when you think of the word routine, if it makes you feel like this is something that you have to do. The word routine, how does
mhm,
that word make you feel?
right. It doesn't. It does. It again to how you when so here for example, when you're starting out and you're implementing something, routine is not the word that you want to use. It doesn't excite you. It's not inviting, right? But when you've already gone into a system of you and what works for you, then that word doesn't necessarily matter because it's already impressed upon you. You already have a certain belief around your ritual. So it depends
Absolutely.
on where you're coming from and what is the goal that you are working to having. So
I
for
love
me,
that.
yes. Hmm.
Yes. I'm sorry. Were you
No,
finished with your thought?
yeah, no,
Okay.
I'm good.
And Karen, thank you so much for sharing that because I do believe that nothing has any meaning except the meaning we give it. And it
Exactly.
is true. Whatever we give the meaning of something, that's what it becomes. That is very, 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 very true. And for me, the word routine is not a positive, powerful word for me. And
Exactly.
so I don't use the word routine and ritual. I know that a lot of other speakers, spiritual leaders, and journal creators like myself use the word ritual. And I decided to use a different word because it resonated with me. And
Retreat.
so I call it a daily retreat. And to
Mm,
me, the word retreat is even it calibrates in to me, and I'm not saying that it calibrates according
mhm,
to Dr. Hawkins because I don't recall him using that word in his book, But the word retreat has always come from a spiritual background. More likely than not, when most people, and please let me know in the chat, and I want to hear your thoughts, Karen. The word retreat to me really makes me think of a spiritual kind of experience. And mind you, I am mindful that retreat has been used in many, many, many ways, like even in war, ask the troops to retreat, to back off, right?
Mhm.
But I want to hear from you when you hear and remember the feeling and the meaning of the word retreat. What comes up for you?
What comes up for me immediately is a time of self-care, because we connect everything to experiences, and so retreats that I have gone to are all have been about me elevating. So that's self-care.
I love it. And thank you. Thank you. Because that is exactly why I thought about the word retreat and I use it as a retreat. And as a matter of fact, even though my first journal is not out, I already have the title for my second book and journal, which will be about the retreat experience. And I've always loved the word retreat, whether in my previous life as a marketing expert and marketing speaker, I always use the word retreat. As a matter of fact, last summer I had a retreat with several speakers and authors where I was teaching them how to properly market their business and also how to generate leads, how to grow their list. And I called it a retreat. And the reason why I said a retreat is because I told them that I really believe that in order for them to accomplish even the simplest things that I was suggesting for them and to them to improve their business, they had to kind of step away from their business and immerse themselves in the content with the intention of moving their business forward. And that was what I did in my last business retreat that I hosted last year. And so for me, for this experience, for this method that I am teaching, that I've created, I love the word retreat. And that's why I call it the future self retreat, because you're going to be retreating from perhaps some beliefs that you have had. And we're going to talk more a little bit about that. But the idea is for you to come away from the daily noise and the daily chatter and go within. And let me just check in here
Andrea has
that
a really good question there.
yes. Let me go first to Asia and then I'm going to transition. Asia says, makes me think of a moment to connect with your true self. Thank you so much for sharing that, my dear. I really like that, Asia. And then let's take a look at the question that Andrea has. You want to read the question for us, Karen?
Sure. That opens up more meanings for self care. I think of that as hair masks and facials, but really, there's more to self care. Can you go over more methods to really improve self care? So good. You're muted, baby.
Yes, that's one of the things that we're going to be talking a little bit about today. And Andrea, more about that on Friday as you experience a little bit of the future self retreat with me inside our private Zoom room. And I'll go into a little bit of that today. So for now, I have chosen to discard the word routine from this training, from my speaking, from my book, from my journal, and redefine the morning habit and the evening habits, because there are really two new habits that I have implemented and that I'll be sharing more about. It's a morning and an evening retreat. And this is a special time for you to take aside some time, dedicate some time to yourself, much like you would, Andrea, for your facial, to go to the spa, or whatever it is that you need to do, that's just as important, like going to the gym, walking, all of that as part of your self care. So, this special time is equally important. So, what the intention is for you to really set aside some time every day for yourself to really begin working on manifesting your fabulous future self. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that and the definition and the reason why I am encouraging you to really reframe the way that you think about it or the way that you defined it. And, I decided to go into the Merriam Webster dictionary, which is my favorite dictionary. And then I looked in other dictionaries to see, well, why did I think of this routine in this way? And the reason is because of these two definitions that I found. One, it was more the mechanical performance, and that is definitely the opposite of what we want to do when we go and have our retreat. We want to go within. We definitely want to be mindful, be conscious, be aware, and we definitely do not want to be mechanical about it. So that's why I had asked Karen about this idea of I have to take away that I have to, and instead think about it in a different way. And then the second definition I found is a routine can be defined as a repeated sequence of behaviors that do not require conscious effort or thought. And I immediately say, well, there you go. You definitely want to be totally conscious when you wake up in the morning, especially because there's so many research studies that demonstrate that we are at a different level of consciousness when we wake up in the morning. So yeah, you've heard that saying that people are fresh in the morning, and that is, by the way, independent of whether you call yourself a morning or an evening person. In the morning, right, we've had an opportunity to relax over the night. We've had some thoughts simmering. And so we wake up as almost like a new being, as it is a new day. And so I want to encourage you to really be mindful of those wonderful morning minutes that we get and how the morning minutes have the power to transform our entire day. And that's where we're going to dive a little bit deeper. And before we do that, I just want to ask Karen if you want to share what Andrea as well as Asia have said in the chat, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. So Andrea has said, I love that word created. And then she said, we can even write dear true self. Good thought, more personal and engrossing than a routine. And then
Hold
Asia,
on. And I just want to say, we're going to go back to that. Remember that.
dear true
Dear
self.
true self. Remember that because you're getting ahead of me, but you're getting this so much, Andrea. Thank you.
Yeah. And then Asia says, makes me think of moment to connect with your true self.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm loving it that people are already getting these things. So I love that you said that, Andrea, your remark about how do you write to yourself, because it is actually a new way of writing. So here's what I want to put in your mind for you to remember and consider for yourself. And that is just like I am writing my first book, my intention is that everyone that comes on this journey writes their first book or their new book or a new chapter in their book. And the book I'm referring to is the book of your life,
Mhm.
because that is indeed what this is. So if you're wondering what is the invitation is to allow yourself to write a new chapter or a new book about you in your life. And the way that we do that is by using a technique that is called future self journaling. Now, future self journaling is a powerful technique that invites right that it's all about you writing about yourself as your future self, as if you have already manifested your desires. So, for example, and I want to help you understand, this is a spiritual as well as a psychological concept. Now, I never did finish my master's in psychology, much less my PhD, which was my intention. But I've always loved psychology ever since my undergrad work in college. And I love the term future self. And yes, it's almost like today, here I am as my present self, and my future self is who I see myself being. In the past, I thought of it as my highest self, but my highest self is someone that I can be constantly. It can be me being my looking into my highest self, that me that knows what's best for me, that me that is perhaps when I was more of a traditional Christian, I would have called the Holy Spirit within me. And the future self now, as I'm understanding it, is quite different. And it is quite different for me than what it is for many psychologists, and at least some of the psychologists that I follow that do this work. So, when many research studies have been written by several psychologists out there, and you can Google this, and you'll find out more when you attend the live Future Self retreat, because I do bring those studies because I do like research studies. Many, if not most, of the psychologists that talk about the future self and have done this research, they primarily refer to the future self as you, perhaps 3, 5, 7, 10 years from now. And the reason why, as I understand this body of work, it is because we are in a society where we're so much about getting everything fast, about, if we look up something on the internet, we find it right away. So about immediate gratification. And so what most of these psychologists talk about with the future self is that they refer to it in more of a long term, so that you, if you, using our terminology, spiritual, if you want to manifest something and it doesn't happen immediately, you're not discouraged because your intention is for the future self. So, does that clarify it? Okay, so now for me, however, I think that every morning when I wake up and see the light, I have a new beginning, a new opportunity. So for me, the future self could be myself in, let's say, a sales meeting later on in the afternoon or tomorrow. So when I talk about the future self, I mean the you that comes right after this conversation, the you that comes right after an awakening, an awareness, a miracle, as a Course in Miracles calls a miracle, a change in consciousness. So for me, I've redefined the future self to be someone that could be your immediate self. Now, to further explain that, the future self is defined by you. It is the you that you want to be, the you that you want to act like, the you that you want to feel like. And let me just take this out for a second. So, for example, to give you an example as you're constructing your future self, I'm going to give the example of how does this work and how do we journal, thinking about it from the weight loss perspective, because I think this is a good way. So, for example, but before I give you that analogy, Karen and everyone watching, do you understand the concept of the future self from both what psychologists call the future self as well as what I'm calling the future self?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any
Ab-
questions about it?
Mm-mm.
Okay, great. And please feel free, beautiful Angel Andrea and Asia, I love angels, to chat. Okay, so let's say I have an intention, and you notice that I am purposely and being very conscious about using the word intention versus a goal. For me, words are important, not only because I'm a neurolinguistic programming licensed practitioner, that's NLP, but because I'm very aware that I give a lot of meaning to many different words. So words have meaning to me, and words are important, especially for the mind that is 95% of the time listening, which is who? Your
Mhm.
subconscious mind, right? It's always listening more than even your conscious mind. So let's go into this analogy. I have the intention of releasing 10 pounds. Now, I see my future self as this fabulous, because of course I'm always fabulous, as this fabulous, right? This fabulous 10-pound less, right? Woman, whatever, which is almost as fabulous as I am now because God made me after her own image. And darn, she's got a great image. It's what I always say. So I start seeing, well, what does that mean? Okay, well, that means that those jeans that I have won't feel tight. Things won't feel tight. That perhaps I'm also going to be able to walk more. I may be able to cycle more. It's all about health and fitness and what that means. Maybe my skin starts looking a little younger. So I start thinking and I create this vision and I visualize and write that word down because in this future self creation, visualization is one of the top components, or I like to use the word element, as in the elements of the earth. So, one of the top elements is this idea of visualizing who you see yourself. So, let's say you realistically, every time I say the word realistic or realistic, I put in air quotes. Realistically, you say, well, or I say, because I've been a Weight Watchers lifetime member, well, Weight Watchers says that according to their research, I could release, because I don't say loose, I use the word release because I'm letting it go, about 1 to 2 pounds a month. So if I want to release 10 pounds, I am looking at about 5 months or so, right? So
Mhm.
then I set the intention every day to see what do I have to do today to be that Evie in 5 months. So my future self is that Evie that is 10 pounds less in 5 months. So I am setting the intention today to be more mindful of what I eat, of walking more, exercising. And so the way that I do that as a Weight Watchers lifetime member, I track. I track my exercise as well as what I eat. Because during the pandemic, which I was the thinnest, believe it or not, while people were gaining weight, I actually was about 15 pounds lighter than I am today. And I was doing great by tracking, which makes me more what? Mindful. So my future self is me over there. And what am I doing? I'm developing certain habits to help me be more mindful and aware. So by using that analogy, does that kind of help you to see how you're going to set an intention and how you're going to create a visual representation of your own future self? Does that help?
I love, she says here, reverse engineering it.
Who was that? Oh, Andrea.
Andrea.
Awesome. And what are your thoughts?
No, I agree with you. It is the mindfulness. It's the become, you say, I use both mindfulness, but for me, I use a lot the word aware, right? Becoming aware, conscious, right? That's active thinking towards what that towards that we desire. And it is, Andrea, you said reverse engineer. It is, we first have to have a visualization of the end result and work from that end backwards. And when we so look at it in this way, an analogy, you don't look at the mountain from the top, from the bottom up. You look from the top to the bottom. So you see yourself already visualized. You already see yourself as that has been accomplished. What does that person, that Evie that is 10 pounds lighter, How does that change her life? What is she doing? How is she feeling? What kind of habits she's created? All of those things, and then you bring them into the present. It was interesting, Evie,
Go,
that you said,
go ahead. I want you to remember that mountaintop because I'm going to bring you an analogy. I'm going to come back to that analogy. Please remind me. Go ahead.
yeah, this morning in my morning study group, I was reading and discussing around the idea that we actually think that being that person, or when we're thinking of the person that we want to become, the fact that you are thinking of that, you're actually being that person in that very moment. And most people think that being that person is that far away. But the fact that you're thinking, the fact that you have that visualization, that you have that inspiration, that you have that idea, means that you're embodying it right now.
Absolutely. And Andrea said, totally get that clarity. I can enlist myself in confusion. That's like saying I'm driving to Canada, but don't know what direction my car's facing. Okay. So be mindful of what you wrote. Okay. And here is something I want to share with you to help you with that. With that analogy that Karen just said. So I'm going to teach you a way that I didn't invent. It's actually a NLP, neuro linguistic programming way. Because I could ask Karen, yeah, but here's the thing of the yeah, but of the mountaintop analogy. I went to Arizona, and what's a big mountain in Arizona? The Grand Canyon, right? And other mountains like that. I just went there on 11/11 this past year for my anniversary of our wedding, and there was a huge mountain that was like this. How do you call this? That is empinada. How do you call this? That is like straight, like
Yeah.
like
It,
like it's like going all the way up.
mhm.
Now here's the thing. I had never been climbing to a mountain like that. In actuality, I haven't climbed mountains until this time. Which, side note, if you want to do it, you better train in advance, okay? So I had never, so I couldn't visualize it. So the reason why that analogy caught my attention is because I want to teach you a way, and this is one of the ways that I'll be teaching you inside of the retreat. And so here's a way, right? What you want to do is, if you haven't climbed that mountain like I had not, and by the way, I didn't. Okay, I couldn't go to one of the mountains that I wanted. It was just like straight up, and it was like a little space like this in between rocks. A lot of people did it, but we did not know it was going to be like that. And we had too much gear in the back. So our gear and us did not fit. So I didn't plan, which is always good. So here's the deal. So, one of the techniques I'll be teaching you in the Future Self Retreat is about you being able to do things that you have never done before by going back to things that you have done that give you the tools, the resources that you may need in this new endeavor. So, what do I mean? For example, and I'm not going deep into this right now because this is not part of our topic today, but just in case someone wants to play the devil's advocate, which I'm doing now to Karen, about the mountaintop analogy as to what happens if you never been up a mountain. So, for me, it was about cycling. The first time that I did, I think it was 44 or 50 miles in the bike. Okay. So for me to garnish what I needed, I should have, and I didn't because we couldn't fit in between the rocks. I could have garnished whatever I had, that recollection of me doing my first, I think it was 44-mile bike ride. You know what I mean? So some of those physical things that I had to endure, overcome, and learn by doing a 44-mile bike ride, perhaps I could have utilized for going up the literal mountain in Arizona. So I want you just to keep that in the back of your mind because when we are faced with something that we fear or that we feel we cannot do, we really can. Not only because we know other people have, in instances where other people have, like for example, the first time that Bannister, who was an athlete running, did the 4 minute mile, the whole world thought that you couldn't do a mile in 4 minutes. And then immediately after he did it, someone came and did it at 3:58, I think it was. So almost four, but not really, a little bit less. So because of those two things, you know that you can indeed do this. So we're going to go more into going and doing things that we want to manifest and we want to take inspired action, but our BS may be holding us back from doing that. And I'm sorry I went into a tangent, but we will be talking more about that. What do you think about that, Karen? And let me know what our beautiful women in the chat are saying.
Well, right now, Asia said, I love that. You set a realistic intention and lead yourself to achieve it by tracking your progress. It's powerful. I love that.
And it is true because, and actually, there's so much study, and look, most of these books have been written mostly by psychologists. And one of the two guys that wrote the biggest books on habits, I always confuse them. One is the Atomic Habits, and the other one is Tiny Habits. I don't know which of the two did this research study. One of them, I believe, is a psychologist. The other one is not. But what he did and what he has been doing for many years is on his website. He tracks everything he does and his results, and he shares it with the public. So if he launched a book, how was the launch, how much money he made. He has always tracked that, which tracking is very powerful to achieving anything we intend to achieve. And so the only reason why I said that analogy is because I want you to begin understanding the power of number one, understanding the future self and always being motivated by the future self. And number two, understand the power of journaling, and specifically of future self journaling.
Mm, so good. Andrea gave also a comment. So fall back onto proof from achievements in your own life for how the next challenge will feel to overcome too, rather than sink in your BS, especially public tracking. Yes, you're muted.
Thank you. Absolutely. I keep muting it because since I move around, because I'm so passionate, as you can see, I don't want when you're talking to hear my moving around. So yes, Andrea, public accountability has been proven by many researchers to be a powerful motivator. And I was going to say something else about what you said about the accountability. Oh, you said about the fallback. So let me put your comment back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And about the so here's what happens. So yes, because it will help you when you see things that either other people have done that you want to do but never done, and also to assimilate things that are similar. I'm kind of being redundant, so that it'll help you. And then regarding the BS, so yeah, that's the reason why we want track track our BS. And I do mean BS as well as belief system.
Yeah.
What else have we got? Any other thoughts?
No, nothing else on the chats.
Okay, so let's continue this so that I get my entire message across. So I wanted to say something about this idea of manifesting your fabulous future self and why the journaling also is powerful in how this all works. And so this is what I wanted to say. So I said visualization, the other one is commitment, and the other one is habit. So right now this is about developing a habit. On Friday I'll talk about how I develop these habits and then about the commitment. So in my book, it may come out in the journal. If I don't have enough content, I'll put it in the journal, but definitely in the book because I'm doing a journal and a book. I write about commitment because when I went back to this book here that you see, and I think I've shown you this book before, right?
Yes.
This is my 40-year-old journal. This is 40 years old. So this book, right? When I think about why I didn't finish this book or other books of like that, or why I hadn't written, or why I hadn't just released all the weight all at once, I
Mhm.
discovered that it was because of a lack of commitment. And the one commitment is self commitment. And that's why, to Andrea's point, accountability and public accountability works so much to help you with the commitment aspect. Because although the most important commitment, in my belief, is the self commitment, many times because we cannot commit to ourselves, the public accountability and the public commitment is a powerful tool for us to leverage. Because to do what we are asking you to do, to go through this whole process, and in a year, 5 years, 10 years from now, really be that wonderful future self that you want to be, it does take commitment. And so we're going to be exploring more about the idea of commitment, because one of the things I realized was that I did not have commitment. Does that make sense?
Yep. It does.
So, as we continue with this idea of future self journaling, this talks about how we're going to be creating our book, which is where I started. And
You know,
so, go ahead.
one thing that in regards to what you're saying, that self-commitment, it's easy for us to think that we're committed by staying busy. But that busyness, does it really have anything to do with that desire that you are working towards? And so busyness and being committed are two separate things too.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that. I don't know if you saw my latest blog article.
No, I have not.
You have not. Okay. So, let me just show you so that you can go to it. Let's see. Where are you? I'm going to do a screen share. Let's share my website, because I love that you said that. So I invite you to go to my website. And then when you visit here, you're going to see. Oh, wait. It helped if I actually share, right? Am I sharing?
You're not sharing it. Now you are.
Okay. Okay, great. So you go here to where it says blog bites.
Mm-hmm.
That'll open up. It should open up the blog. Let's see if it does. Let's take that out. And if when you go to blog bites, you will or should land. This is taking a little time. So you should land on this article that I recently wrote, March 17. How being busy will not allow you to feel, act, and be rich. So I'm going to put it in the chat there. Where am I? Right here. Hopefully that'll show up on all the pages. Oh, something happened here. It's not showing up, but for sure I will share it later on all social media. But I invite you to go there, because it is so true that we oftentimes confuse that whole thing of being busy,
Absolutely.
and that's not correct. So just saying. And what else were you saying before I interrupted?
Andrea has a comment.
Go ahead.
She says, frankly, not being able to trust yourself is a self commitment barrier paradigm that journaling can squash for us. Totally experience that too. It's
Okay, so
definitely not, I need to streamline a lot.
well, here's the thing. So there is a body work from Dr. Benjamin Hardy and other psychologists like him, who have said that we definitely have a lot of commitments to ourselves that we are unaware. So, for example, and I'm going to jump right into this because I just want to address this, and Andrea, from the commitment perspective, we do want to take a daily inventory of our commitments. Because, for example, last night I was walking my husband, who is my greatest cheerleader, through the feel, act, and be method, right? Which is the method. that I believe you can feel, act, and be rich. You can feel, act, and be skinny or fit, whatever it is, through this method. I really believe it because I am doing it now. And so he has this commitment that he cannot sleep well. And told him that I swear that that is a commitment that he has made to himself. And he believes it. It's also part of his BS. So he believes that. So I was working with him last night to break him away. And I said, let's do it over the next 7 days. So next Wednesday, I'll report back to see if he slept more this week. And so we want to be mindful of our commitments because there are so many definitions that we have used for different commitments that are keeping us in a prison of our own minds, and many of which we are not aware that we're committed to. And there are a lot of the belief system, like I cannot lose weight, I cannot sleep, I cannot read, I cannot be a public speaker. These have been limiting BS belief system that we're now committed to. So we are committed to those type of things. And so in life in general, we're committed to a lot of things. So what this means is that yes, we are capable of commitment. We just have to be aware of which are the good commitments that we want to be in tune with. Does that make sense?
It does. And something else in that aspect, because it's all about, we're talking about self love. Before we criticize and judge ourselves of what we are not committed to, that we are consciously aware that we're not, we want to dive in and look at the things that we are committed to and give ourselves the grace that we can commit. We just need to reprogram what we're committing to. It's easy to shut ourselves down and judge ourselves and criticize ourselves. But we have to become aware of what we are criticizing and what we're judging, because what we say that we can't commit, we're just actually we have to reprogram what we're committing, but we are able and capable of committing.
Absolutely. And that's where the future self journaling and writing your own book as your future self becomes so important, because you can actually manifest your entire life by writing it as your future self. And that is also why one of the reasons in the journal, I have an area that's called celebrate and reward yourself. Because, for example, if I said that I was going to release 10 pounds in 5 months and I don't celebrate and reward myself in the next 5 months as I'm going through the journey, I'm either A, going to drop it all together. I'm going to drop it because I'm not going to be motivated. Okay. Or B, I'm just going to beat up on myself and never do it again or never try it again. So that's why
Mhm.
it's important that you celebrate and reward yourself in your journey. And that's why the tracking component is so important, because, like Karen said, you're loving yourself for doing the best you can and accepting yourself every day more. And by tracking it and writing it down, when you do the evening retreat, which I'll talk more about on Friday, then you are more loving and kind to yourself as opposed to being judgmental and not really being kind to yourself for doing something.
Mhm.
And it's very, very important. So I recommend that you have a daily practice of future self journaling. Okay. I recommend that you do it when it's most quiet for you in a peaceful environment. And on Friday, I'll talk a little bit more about some of even the crazy ways that you can do it. And I'm using that word not literal, but like, for example, when I started, I had to keep a chair and a little table in my bathroom to be there quiet and be able to do it there. And, every morning I go to the bathroom. So I'm not a habits expert, but I know we had Andrea here on the first Wednesday, who is with the Tiny Habits folks. And she talked about putting one habit with another. So one of the ways we could develop this habit is, for example, for me now, I go to the kitchen every morning and I drink my cup of coffee. So I keep my journal on that little table in the kitchen where every morning I sit down to have my cup of coffee. And so it's very easy for me to quickly do my Fab Rich Future Self journal, which I have been doing now for 3 months since I created it for myself. And I just do it right there. So I put that habit that already existed in my life, drinking coffee, together with the new habit that I want to implement. So I hope that's useful. That was one of the tips that she shared. Is that useful to you as you think about how am I going to start this new feel, act, and be rich future self journal?
Absolutely. It is. It's about creating the ease and the flow. I think it's really important for us to just let everybody know that don't take all of a sudden two or three things that you want to implement all at once. Like
Oh my goodness, yeah.
one thing, get good at that, get comfortable with that implementation, and then you move on to the next thing. And it's exactly that, the same way that Evie, you were talking about the journal there, because you want to create the whole purpose of everything we do is to have fulfillment, ease, flow in our lives. And so we just be got to conscious of that when we, because we can get excited and all of a sudden implement like three things at once and then end up failing in all of them because you it's too much all at once.
Absolutely. I think I would love for you to read this from Andrea.
Yes, mind blowing. Writing your life into existence by design as you go. Staking habits journal and creating morning and evening rituals. I'm also getting a food tracking journal. When are you? When are yours?
Awesome. So yeah. So
Okay,
the
it says here, when are your journals coming up for sale? Purchase Evie.
So right now, the publisher has said that all books, mine will be a book journal, submitted will be printed and published in 2024. I am intending to create a short batch as a self-published author. More to come as we progress on this journey. So stick around, stay with me, and we'll be letting you know. And you'll get first dibs, of course, so stay with me. So to complete this training as I had it set up today, let me just say when we're writing our future self, remember we are visualizing. By so doing, we are indeed creating a roadmap. Because can you imagine if you start writing that you're going to drive like I did to Arizona. I drove to Arizona. You can begin every day writing a little bit, and then you could actually take that notebook and say, okay, well, this is what I wrote. Now I know I got to this area. Okay, now I'm going to go to this other state. I crossed 6 states. So by writing it, you have a roadmap. It is the same thing with your future self journal. You are in advance writing what's going to happen in the future, and it's a guide. So it's just so powerful. So I want you to remember that you're also tapping into the power of the law of attraction, which of course states that when we focus on positive thoughts, positive intention, positive feelings, we will attract that which we are focused on. So that's why this is so powerful. So by doing this Fab Rich Future Self journal, the extra side benefits are that you're going to feel more clarity. You're going to know your direction. And if you're feeling stuck, you are going to be feeling a lot more clear. And like Karen said, you're going to be more in the flow. Okay. And before I go into this section, I know there's a lot of chat and remarks. So I'm going to hide the PowerPoint and ask you to please, Karen, chime in with the
Yes.
chat.
So Andrea said, but to do this, we need to strip back some of the trash time sucking things like scrolling. Yes. And then she also said, this is the day we gotta get headspace clear with AI coming. Mm.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Andrea, you bring so much. I'm hoping that you're definitely going to be there on Friday because you helped me to bring up all the content I have in this brain of mine. So
Yeah.
here's something I discovered, which I also talk about in the book, not the journal, um, because the editor has asked me to simplify the journal. I discovered while doing this writing that I was a crazy multitasker. And I thought that by multitasking, I was being more productive. Now, since I've learned from productivity psychologists over the past 3 months as I've been writing this book, is that it has been shown that the more you multitask, the more you end up not finishing all the things you were multitasking. So there's a quite of a bit of a difference between this idea of pairing things together, like for developing the habit that I mentioned, versus doing or having a huge to-do list. And I'm only going to say this and then I want to move forward with the next chat. I used to begin the day with a 10-item to-do list. Now, and in the journal, what I ask is, what are the top 3 intentions that you have for the day? Because according to productivity psychologist Dr. Benjamin Hardy, when you have 3 things that are focused directly on one of those big future self goals, you're more likely to completely accomplish those 3 things. Therefore, productivity psychologists suggest that instead of having this huge to do list for the day, we focus on 3. So that's it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Asia has a couple of statements there. She said, I started doing that with your advice, Evie. It's been better. I couldn't sleep well at night.
Well, I am so glad. Now, we're not going to have a lot of time to do this, but I want to share this on the stream to kind of help you get started. For those that are here live, I appreciate you and I look forward to hearing like your stories on Friday as well as throughout this process that we're all going into. So, first of all, for those of you that are watching the replay, which a lot of people that I emailed said, please send me the replay, and I will. And hello, thank you for watching. And so, here's an exercise for you to do when you get a few minutes for yourself to be in a self retreat. So, I want to encourage you to begin future self journaling. And the way that you can begin is by thinking about these 3 questions, or 2 or 3. What do I want to achieve in the next year? What qualities do I want to embody, or how do you want to feel? And what kind of person do you want to become? So, if you want, you can do a screenshot of this or write it down. This is just to get you starting about your future self. Is there any new message there? Okay, okay. No, I see it. Perfect. I thought there was. So, are those doable questions?
Absolutely. I think
That
they're really profound questions that will help anybody just to start to open up, like open that Pandora box, right? Just to start. And the thing is this, that when we're intentional about asking, about answering questions, we actually dive into that infinite consciousness, right? That we tend not to be in because we're so in autopilot most of the time.
and you know what? I'm going to have to come back and clip what you said because that itself is a powerful statement for the idea of this journal. Do you remember what you just said? Say it again.
Mhm. That we open up the box, we open up the box, the Pandora box of consciousness. We dive into that idea, into discovering ourselves, because
Exactly.
we are usually on autopilot.
And the reason why for me that was powerful is because that's the reason for the guided or prompt journal.
Hmm.
Because in stream of consciousness writing or the writing that you do like in a straight line notebook is extremely powerful. And as a matter of fact, in the journal, I have added lines so that you could do stream of consciousness writing. I mean, most of the time we know that as a diary, which is in fact what this first one was. And the idea of the prompted or guided journal is to elicit that type of strong, more powerful, deeper kind of conversation and really
Absolutely.
get you thinking. So
Well,
that's
and
what, yeah,
part of it, and the reason why it's going to be so amazing is because for a person that is not accustomed to journaling or asking questions, or even, it's easy for us to say, okay, I want to, what kind of questions do I ask myself? They'll remain more in that limbo question of not knowing and trying to come up with the perfect question, as if there is a perfect question, than to be presented with questions that automatically you're giving yourself permission to dive in and answer. So that alone is powerful.
absolutely. And thank you, Andrea. Andrea, I'm going to move forward because I want to finish this material, but I did read and I am so grateful that you're here. So I want to invite you to write the answers to those questions in your own journal, whichever journal you have, or in a notebook. We're not going to be able to go through that today, but please do write it. And I know that at least for the three of you, we're going to be together on Friday. So please do bring that and share that, because that's the reason why I set up our actually 4 hours, so that you can talk and I can record you and we can have great conversations. Which, I feel like when we get started here, Karen, there's so much you and I could be talking. And I always feel
Go
like
over and over.
we still go over the hour, and I'm trying to get to this. But we're about to finish, and please do the work, because I do want us to have more of an in-depth conversation at our journal slash future self mini retreat that we're having on Friday. And that's the idea, to really get us going and be each other's accountability partner. And really, I am writing the journal in an actual book, and we are all starting our own book of our own life, a new chapter. And really, that's how I really want all of us to think about it. So, right now, before we finish, in the next few minutes, if you would indulge me for at least 10 or less minutes, I would like you to imagine yourself waking up early in the morning, or having a morning where this is your view, the beautiful ocean. How many of you experience the view of the ocean? I mean, I don't know where you live, Andrea, but I know that Asia, Karen, and I live here in South Florida. And I don't want to dive deep into this question except to ask you, Karen, how often in 1 month do you just go to take a look at the ocean and admire its beauty, since we have it so close to us?
Mm, yeah, I have to say that I mean, not as often as I would like to, right? And those are the things that we take. I have become a little bit more intentional in that, because it gives me so much peace, and it reminds me and it puts me in that gratitude mode that, you know, people pay to come here to vacation and dream, and I have it right here. And so again, it just, every time that I go and drive around it or go to the beach and just kind of look at, like I was there this weekend and just admiring it, it's like so beautiful and peaceful.
And you know what? I'm exactly like you. I was doing that. And now, because I'm selling my condo in Aventura, which I know many of you have seen, that I have the look of the ocean, as well as the intercoastal, as well as $1 million homes in Golden Beach, which is appropriately called. I always say Golden Beach because the houses are, I think, 2 million and above.
Yeah.
And the beach is less than 10 minutes away from me driving over the Lehman Causeway. And so now I've begun to really go out there and appreciate it, because, like you, living here now, incredibly to say, 18 years, I have really not taken a full advantage of that. And it was the whole reason why I bought this condo, because of the view and because it was so close to the beach. And now that I'm selling it, I'm like, well, I may not have it this close, so I need to, and I want to, rather, I want to, be it. And the
Right.
reason why I bring it up today is because later on this year, before it gets too hot, or right after it gets hot, looking into either May or June, I'm going to do a live in person future self retreat. And I want you to hold the vision for yourself and for your friends that you want them to hang out with you to come and join us here in Golden Beach, at the beach, because I have two locations. One is a very good friend of mine who is a very well-known speaker here in South Florida. He bought a new building, which is literally, and I told you this, Karen, right on the beach. So that is our window. And I think it was a month or 2 months ago, I actually did a live video and I put it on Facebook of the location. Beautiful. And even if we don't have it there, we're going to be in Golden Beach. We're going to be hanging out there. I just bought my beach chair, which now, because this glittery hot pink is my color, my hubby actually bought me a brand new, beautiful beach chair to go and enjoy the future self retreat on the beach. And so, my invitation is for you to visualize yourself, and let's just call it hanging out. We're going to hang out at the beach and experience some breakthroughs and some transformation. And so I want to encourage you to visualize that. And then before we end, I will share, if you want, I have some examples of what could be a journal prompt or an example of something you write in your future self journal. So, for example, you can say something like, as I sit here and reflect on my life, I am filled with gratitude and joy for the journey that has led me to where I am today. I am living proof that when you commit to manifesting your fab rich future self, anything is possible.
I love
So,
that.
and so, if you want that, I will share it with you. I just wanted to give you an example of some of the things that are out there. I want to encourage you to really visualize yourself. I do already have my white hat for the beach. And if you don't have one, go out and get one so you can visualize yourself even more, like I did. I got the pink chair, I got the hot pink bathing suit, I got the white sombrero beach hat. Like, I am really immersing myself in this thing that we're all going to be at the beach. Andrea, hopefully you'll be here. We'll have to add another face there. If not, the next one. For now, since there's three, I'm going to say is Asya, Karen, and I hanging out in Golden Beach, but I know it's going to be a minimum of 12 women. I love the number 12 or 8, which is the number of infinity as well as prosperity. And I want to invite you by letting you know what are the top 3 reasons that I want to encourage you to really register to the Future Self retreat. And so during the Future Self retreat, you are going to experience a life transforming event. If you have liked the content that we have shared over the past month, every Wednesday, for what is now our ongoing Wealth Creation Wednesday, you're going to absolutely love even more the in-person retreat, because we're going to go over, and I'm sorry that my PowerPoint is getting a little nutty. We're going to go over what exactly it means to experience a self-guided daily morning and evening retreat. I'm going to go over in detail what that means, what that can mean for you, and how that can totally transform your life as it has been doing for me. I mean, my husband, who, just to say, he's a great husband and he's a great cheerleader, he's also a non-believer in these things, which is my biggest challenge, right? And
Evie,
he's
my love, just
amazing.
very quickly, I'm gotta go, but it's been
Yeah.
an honor to be here. I love you all, and I'll see you all soon.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for being here. I'll see you on Friday.
Okay.
Bye bye. So, yes, so I'm sharing this stuff that is something that my beloved finds it hard, but I want you to know that I want to hang out with you at the beach. I want you to be there with us. And I want to hear all your stories of how you've manifested powerful things. And before we finish, I just want to ask that whether you're watching this live or if you're watching this on the replay, please scan this QR code and please share in there your thoughts about today's presentation, the content, and everything. So go ahead and take a picture of this. Please go ahead and give me your feedback, how you like the content, because I definitely want to hear from you. I want to just check the chat before we leave, and before I leave you with the last. Okay. Okay. What else? Just walked around the house in the hat. I love it. Oh, I love that. Yes. Yes, Andrea. And let's see what beautiful Asia. Asia, thank you so much, Asia, for being here. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you joining me on Friday. I'm excited to have you join us on Friday. I love you, Asia. I thank God for all of you in my life. And I'm so grateful that, Andrea, we've reconnected once again. And it's just my pleasure to share this with you as I'm getting it from the divine mind, because this has all been by divine inspiration. Remember to check out our futureselfretreat.com, as well as to feel free to email me with any questions, thoughts. And for those of you that are participating in the Future Self Retreat.com, the mini virtual retreat this Friday, I look forward to seeing you on Friday at 11 a.m. ET. And for those of you that want to join us, that are not part of our group that we've already established and are going to be using the journal, you can join us. You can join us. And so I want to invite you to go to futureselfretreat.com, and I'll leave you with this video to inspire you to join us this Friday at 11 a.m. ET. Thank you very much for now. This is Evie Diaz, strategic growth speaker at bizuniversity.com and the creator of the FAB, Feel, Act, and Be Rich Future Self Journal. Thank you.